Alright, so hello everyone. Welcome back to Jesters Hideout. This is Akira, and today we have Voltfire with me yet again.
Yes, sir, I am back.
Okay, so for today, we're changing up our format slightly. So normally we have 3 topics to talk about. Today I'm changing it up so that we'll only have 1, because it's going to be a very long topic. So today we are going to talk about the Fate series. So this is going to be a pretty long topic. We're going to cover many things. We're going to cover the shows that we have gotten into, games we've gotten into, as well as some of our favorite characters and moments. Is it cool if I start off with an exposition about what Fate is before we get too deep into the conversation?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so I'll talk about the premise of Fate Stay Night because that is the easiest one to explain. So the way Fate works is that it is a battle royale kind of show. You have a ritual which is used to summon an artifact called the Holy Grail. Now, it is said that the Holy Grail can grant any wish, so it is coveted a lot by mages and people who study magic. And the idea is that you have a ceremony in which you have 7 mages, who are people who can use magecraft, and they will summon 7, I guess, for lack of a better word, soldiers to fight for them. Now, usually these are famous or mythical figures from human legends and human history. So that's usually how it ends up working. In Fate Stay Night specifically, the main character is a guy who has no involvement in the Holy Grail War but gets dragged into it, and he summons a servant called Saber. We don't know her name initially, but because of his involvement in the war, he has to try and win the Holy Grail. I think that more or less sums up the whole thing behind Fate, right? At least at a high level.
Yeah.
So let's start off with, obviously my channel is very dedicated to Fate Grand Order, which is another spin-off series. But I'll start with you first today, Volt. How much of Fate do you know and have you gotten into?
Not very much, I feel. So I do not play Fate Grand Order, nor do I watch Apocrypha, but I have watched Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night, which basically introduces me the Fate series as a whole.
Yeah.
And what got me into Fate.
I think those two are probably the most essential for viewing because they cover most of the fundamentals of how the Holy Grail War, how servants and all that stuff works. So, okay, yeah, in terms of what I've covered, I have gone through Stay Night, Zero, Extra, Apocrypha, and Grand Order, so the only ones that I have not covered are things that do not have a official translation. So you have stuff like Fate Strange Fake. This reminds me of that one Geekuk video that was talking about people trying to get into the Fate franchise. It's very hard to pick a point to get into, right?
Well, in my personal opinion, I believe that just watching Fate Zero or playing like the Fate Stay Night games is more than enough to get you into a Fate, like overall.
So actually, let me start off with that then. How did you get into the Fate franchise? Did you just discover it by accident or something?
Yeah, it was more so accident. So there was this one time where I had nothing to do. I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I just went on Crunchyroll, and I was just looking through the recommendations that Crunchyroll had, and one of the top picks they had was Fate Zero. So I clicked that, watched season 1 and 2. And that's how I got into Fate. And then, after that, I was interested in the sequel or what happened next to Fate Zero. So I searched it up, and apparently Fate Stay Night was the sequel to Fate Zero. So I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. But this is also back before Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works anime from Ufotable was animated. So I watched the Dean anime, where they went through the Fate route.
Well,
and
I imagine you were disappointed.
Let's say my expectations was pretty high after watching Fate Zero because the animation and the story direction was very different to Fate Stay Night Dean animation, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So after my disappointment, I was like, man, this can't be it. There has to be something better. So I thought maybe they had a manga, where most anime adopted from mangas, right?
Yeah.
So I went to I went to like manga sites and stuff to see like if they originated from there, but except I figured out it actually originated from a visual novel. Then from there, that's when I like down the game and went through the 3 routes. And I must say, like, I enjoyed most of my ride, my experience with the visual novel. It was out of my expectations, definitely, like in a good way.
Well, if Studio Dean's animation sort of disappointed you, I would say the fundamental problem with them is that what they basically did with the show was they took all 3 of the routes in the visual novel and tried to cram it into one long
Yes.
series, and they took elements from all of them, which is why it didn't work out very well.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, because of how bad the Dean adaptation was, I took some of their scenes with a little bit grain of salt.
Mhm.
So when I read like the Fate Heaven's Feel and realized that Sakura was like,
Oh, we don't
the
talk
third
about that
mage,
right
I was-
now,
Oh yeah.
because that might be spoilers. but I know what you mean.
But yeah, like when I watched the Fate Dean anime, like I thought they were just fillers, right? Like I thought, oh, that wouldn't actually happen in in the actual like visual novel. But when I read the 3rd route, I was like, oh my god.
See?
So it is real. Like,
I mean, okay, I know that the Dean series of Fate, which is the first anime adaptation, gets a lot of hate because it's lower quality, but I have to be completely honest, it is how I got into the Fate franchise as a whole.
okay.
So I think I might have mentioned this before, but the first time I actually discovered Fate was this one time where YouTube randomly recommended me this video where Archer was fighting Berserker. So I knew nothing about these characters. To me, Archer was just some dude in a red cloak, and Berserker was just some massive gray dude with a big sword. Right?
Okay.
But I mean, and the fight choreography for that wasn't even that great, but it was specifically the music, like Emiya, the song. They played that in the background while this was happening, and I was like, whoa, I'm actually absolutely blown away. As a matter of fact, I'm tempted to play a sample for the audience in case they haven't watched Fate Stay Night before, but I think I'll pass on that for now.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that scene, I'm just like, I don't know who this Archer guy is, but I love him. And-
You love the theme, I think.
Well-
I think you love the theme more than the character. The only time when you actually fell in love with the character is when you finally read through the visual novel and actually understand his background and his character.
True, but that was my first big exposure to Archer, right? Like, the music really sold him to me. It's just like this epic hero who would fight against someone like Berserker, even though it was really hopeless. And then so I was like you, right? After discovering the anime, then I discovered the visual novel and I actually played through it. And my god, it was a roller coaster of an experience. I distinctly remember replaying several scenes over and over again long after I had completed the visual novel because of how epic they were.
Oh yeah.
To say my favorite scene would actually be very heavy spoilers, so I'm going to save that for later on in the podcast, where, like, at that point, it's absolutely beware, we have given you fair warning.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, now I've gotten, it's, like, pretty well everything. From the visual novel, I played the other visual novel, which came after Fate Hollow Ataraxia. I mean, clearly I play Fate Grand Order because half the content on my channel, well, actually way more than half now, is actually just me doing the Fate Grand Order videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I've gotten into it a lot further than you did, but at the same time,
yeah. Unfortunately, when I played FGO, like, I don't know, like the battle system and the gacha wasn't like. It was a turn off.
one thing I can absolutely guarantee you is that no fan of FGO is ever going to tell you that the combat system is a good thing.
Uh-huh.
I've
Like,
played
when I downloaded the game, I was hoping for some good gameplay, and when I like played the game, it seemed kind of dry. I mean, unfortunately, that's my personal opinion. So
frankly speaking, so as someone who's played the game since its release in North America, I can tell you the game's story was incredibly weak when it first came out. Like, gameplay was sort of bad, like, story was kind of like, eh. It wasn't until, I think, Camelot and Babylonia where, like, things really picked up, right? The core gameplay of Fate Grand Order has never been excellent. It was the story that kept me hooked, right? The characters that I've seen from... Because Fate Grand Order, for people who don't know, it's like the mobile game for the Fate franchise, and it gathers characters from every single Fate intellectual property and puts them all in one game. It was the appeal of those characters that kept me playing, like long after the gameplay had already gotten stale, right? And I think that's the point at which they realized that they actually had the potential to go really far with the story. And as a matter of fact, I recently did a walkthrough of the China Lost Belt on my YouTube channel, where the story has picked up at a dramatic pace, and like it's quite good now, frankly speaking. But I can understand how much of a turnoff it could be to newcomers because the gameplay isn't perfect, and neither was the story.
I feel like if Fate Grand Order was a visual novel game only, then I would probably download it. Just because when I first played Fate, it was just a visual novel. Like, there was no battle system, there was no like any sort of gacha or any additional features, right? So if it was just like how I remembered it, then I would probably play it.
Well, at the same time, though, this is just me speaking purely from like a business perspective, though. You need a gacha and battle kind of system in order to draw money as a free-to-play game, which is like, I understand why they went that route, but at the same time, it's like, it depends, because having a free-to-play game also means that you can expand the story at any point in time, whereas if you had something like the original Fate Stay Night visual novel, you're limited to the amount of storytelling you can do, right? You can't build off your previous works as easily, I guess, whereas with a free-to-play game, you can constantly add new story arcs, right?
I think that is mostly towards gacha games, I feel. Because, like, with gacha, right, like, the business will be able to make money, and with money, they'll be able to use that budget to put in the additional time and effort in creating, like, or expanding the story and the lore, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that Fate Grand Order would have been like worse off in visual novel form, but it's like I appreciate that the story exists in some capacity, because I have a distinct feeling that the game, if it were not for the fact that it was a game related to the Fate franchise and you could summon servants that you were familiar with, the game may have just died off for like literally being bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know that not all the Fate properties are super hot, right? I know, for example, that Apocrypha is not exactly fondly looked upon either because of its main character, but I could tell you all about that if you're interested in hearing, though.
For the audience, sure.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. So, if Fate Stay Night was the system in which you were introduced to servants, the Holy Grail, summoning, and all that stuff, Fate Apocrypha was like the extension of that. Fate Apocrypha basically takes place in a parallel universe in which some events were changed, and I think it takes place around the same time, but not at the same time as Fate Stay Night. But basically what happens is some ancient mage family actually stole the Holy Grail during one of the Holy Grail Wars. So basically, the Holy Grail Wars in Fate Stay Night ended up never happening because this family of mages stole the Holy Grail, right? But then they were prepared to use it, and then they basically made an announcement to the world that, like, oh yeah, we're going to use the Holy Grail. And then apparently the Mages Association, which is like an organization that's responsible for dealing with magecraft and stuff, tried to stop them, ended up activating the Holy Grail's backup system, so it actually ended up creating a Great Holy Grail War. So normally Holy Grail Wars are 7 servants, so 7 of these historical or mythical figures, right? And they all fall into a class, like you have, Saber, Lancer, Archer, Caster, Rider, Assassin, and Berserker, right? In Fate Apocrypha, there are 2 factions of 7 servants. So each faction has 7 classes, and then they fight against each other, and the faction that's alive then fights again for the Holy Grail, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So basically, it's a team deathmatch instead of a battle royal.
Exactly, yeah. That's probably the best way to describe it. So it has the super cool premise, and I was like really interested to get into it. But then...
But didn't the anime also have a ruler as well?
Yes. Okay, so ruler, for people who don't understand this, ruler can basically be thought of as someone who does not have a desire for the Holy Grail, but meets the qualifications to be like a mythical or heroic figure. So in Fate Apocrypha, ruler was actually Jeanne d'Arc, who was a very famous French woman who helped end the 100 Years' War, I think. And basically, the only job of rulers to do is to make sure that the Holy Grail War proceeds properly. So that's actually a thing I did not mention earlier, is that everyone's trying to keep Magecraft secret, like kind of like Harry Potter style, where like you don't want normal people to know that magic exists, kind of thing.
But it's known in that anime.
It's not known, but if anything goes against that, the ruler steps in to intervene.
Okay.
So this might be a bit of like a bit of a spoiler for people who haven't watched Apocrypha, but there is a point in which a vampire actually gets let loose. And so what the ruler actually does in that Holy Grail War is, because the vampire threatened to like infect the whole world and turn everyone to vampires, the ruler actually forced all the servants on both sides to team up together. So rulers have supreme authority, basically.
That's a shocker that they actually introduce a vampire, because I thought like the Nasu verse with the Tsukihime sharing the same universe as Fate won't correspond with each other. Or, like,
they do, surprisingly enough.
Diverge.
Actually, as a matter of fact, in the most recent Lost Belt in Fate Grand Order, one of the enemies you fight is actually a true ancestor.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
I know nothing about true ancestors aside from the fact that like they're the equivalent of fairies or elementals. Like they're basically like embodiments of the planet itself, I think. So either way, it's complicated stuff that I think most viewers who aren't familiar with the Fate franchise won't understand. But back to Apocrypha, though, the point of Apocrypha being that, like, you think that's going to be some epic series because, you know, you have teams and stuff, right? But then the big main character, well, I mean, there's two people that you follow throughout the story. You have Saber of Red, who is one of the Knights of the Round Table, and then you have Sieg, who is a homunculus, except he has, like, a really bland personality, like, cardboard cutout shonen protagonist kind of bland. You know?
That sounds kind of boring.
He gets much better treatment in Fate Grand Order than he does in the anime of Fate Apocrypha, so I don't know. It's on and off. Like that's what I mean when I say that there's disparity between like the quality of different Fate franchises. Like on that fact, there's actually a video game called Fate Extra. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it or played it before.
I heard of it. I think I watched some few gameplays of it, but not much.
Yeah, like that one is even stranger because that's another parallel world in which Holy Grail Wars are not fought on Earth, they're fought on the moon. And people use like Spiritron hacking to enter the moon supercomputer to do stuff, and like I said, it's super complicated. It is far easier for me to remember the characters than it is for me to remember the premise, if that gives you any indication of how complicated it can be. The worst part is that actually like, these are all interrelated, because in the Fate Extra universe, there's actually like a time where an alien tries to invade Earth, and then the gods of Earth have to fight back against it, and like apparently that carries over to Fate Grand Order somehow. Yeah, it's complicated stuff.
I think the real question is, how come Shinji was a nice guy in Fate Extra, while as in the Fate Stay Night universe, he's like this complete jackass?
Okay, well, I could explain that to you. That Shinji in Fate Extra is actually not like the real Shinji Mato.
It's not the real one? He's just an imitation?
Like, he's apparently just some kid who uses that as his avatar, as far as I remember.
What?
Yeah, he's like some genius kid who's like really smart. He has nothing to...
Why of all characters would he pick Mato's Shinji as his avatar?
I don't know. I actually don't remember very well. Like he's actually really chill is the thing. And
that is shocking.
Yeah, and it's very different from the impression you might have of Shinji in like the Fate Stay Night series.
Does that mean that person using his avatar actually knows who Mato Shinji is?
I don't remember the specifics is the thing. Like I don't remember the entire details behind how he became who he is. I only remember who his servant was. Like yeah, so I should explain that part to you, although it's a bit late to do so now, but all masters summon a servant and make a contract with them, and usually to summon a servant, you have to be in possession of something that is related to that servant. So, for example, the main character who summoned... So, this might be a bit of a spoiler, but I think everyone's far enough in that they shouldn't mind. To summon King Arthur, for example, you could have the Sheath of Excalibur, and that would let you summon King Arthur. If you wanted to summon one of the Knights of the Round Table, if you had a piece of the Round Table that they used, then that would work as well.
Then I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, in Fate Stay Night, when Rin was trying to summon a servant, she didn't have any sort of catalyst. Like, let's say if she didn't have the jewel that was basically holding, like, that saved Shira's life, right?
Yeah.
Could she have potentially summoned a servant then?
Summoning a servant without a catalyst, I don't exactly know how that works. Rin seemed super confident in it working, not knowing what her catalyst actually was, of course.
Right,
but, like,
she did it by accident.
It was by accident. But for example, in Fate Zero, there was that guy, that Ryunosuke fellow, right? He had absolutely no catalyst whatsoever either.
Oh,
but
right.
because
I forgot.
Because he attempted the summoning ritual and was found to be a compatible master, the Grails just gave him someone who would fit his personality, and that's how he summoned Gilderai.
Right, he did summon him just by creating like this was it like pentagon or whatever?
Yeah, he just followed a book and made it like a summoning circle, and then he summoned Gilderai. Yeah, I'm imagining that's what would have happened to Rin, because the servant has to answer your summoning as well, right? Servants can choose to not answer summons, I think. It's like how well, okay, it depends, because I think that the only reason why evil servants were allowed to summon was because of the particular set of events that happened in Fate Stay Night, because normally you're not able to summon evil heroic spirits, right? But I'm pretty sure that most good heroic spirits will not answer the summons of someone who plans to do something bad, because as much as the masters themselves want the Holy Grail, the servant answers the call because they also want the Holy Grail, right?
Right, yep.
Now, if we want to go even to an even further layer of complication, this whole summoning system was based off of the Grand Servants, which was the Earth's own defense mechanism against the extinction of humanity, right? But we don't talk about that because that's way too complicated even for my tastes.
I think that is a fake Grand Order type of topic here.
Yeah.
Which I'm not too, like, knowledgeable about.
Basically, the only thing you have to care about is that you can summon servants. There are 7 servants and 7 classes, and each of them have distinct traits. And that should do it for, like, most anime and visual novel readers. Going into details beyond that tends to be a bit complex. I mean, that being said, though, Fate Grand Order has a lot of my favorite servants, so it is still something that I stand by.
Well, Fate Grand Order is essentially the biggest Fate game of all time, I think.
Yeah, it's the biggest crossover. Like, they can bring whatever servants they want from anywhere there. You know, I remember there was a time where I literally told my friend, Napoleon Bonaparte is going to be a servant. And lo and behold, he shows up in the game in Lost Belt 2. And I'm like, yo, I called it, dude. The only thing I didn't call right was his class. I thought he'd be a ruler. I was wrong.
What was he then?
He was an archer, which makes sense because one of Napoleon's myths was that he ended a uprising with a whiff of grape shot. So, makes sense for him to have a cannon. But that's the thing with Fate Grand Order. Like, one of the biggest appeals of Fate Grand Order is that not only can it take the existing servants from the current Fate IP properties, but so long as the game continues going, they can always come up with new ideas for servants. Like, there are some really obscure ones that I've never heard of before, like Arash. Not sure if you knew who that is either, for that fact.
Nope, I don't know who that is.
So, like, most of the time, servants are people that, like, we know really well. Like, you have King Arthur, you have Cuchulainn, and people like Alexander the Great, right? But Arash, apparently, he was a Persian hero.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Supposedly, his myth, I didn't read too much into this, so I might have some of this wrong, and I don't mean to offend anyone with Persian ancestry when I say this, but supposedly the myth behind Arash was that he ended the war by shooting an arrow that separated the border between 2 countries, I think. It was like a miraculous arrow shot or something like that.
Whoa, that's crazy. So you probably like hit the core of the Earth or something.
Well, it went really far. Like the shot just went really far. And it gets like his Noble Phantasm in game is also similar to that. Like he fires like a comet for an arrow, kind of thing. Where then the thing is like as cool as the original Fate Stay Night was, right? Like there's a limited amount of servants that you can use, which is why I really like the fact that it could draw from Apocrypha and Extra as well, because they had some really well written characters in there, like Nero from Fate Extra. Like I made a whole video about why she's a great character and everything. So, I mean, on that topic though, you have any favorite characters?
Are we going to talk about like Fate Zero specifically, or Fate
anything
Stay Night specifically?
Anything that you know of. Like what I talk about, you might not know because it might be a Fate Grand Order exclusive. But
yeah,
you can start. We can start with you first.
I think one of my most favorite characters probably Shiro Amiya himself.
So the main character of Fate.
Oh yeah, like when you first read him, you thought he was just your normal shonen protagonist that is like out there trying to help everyone just because he feels like it. But then once you like realize his backstory, well, I guess for me, I already knew his backstory because I watched Fate Zero, like near the end where he like almost died from the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
But then Kuritsugu came and saved him. But that was like. That specific story was expanded even further from his perspective. So like when he like experienced the Holy Grail again, but this time him participating in the war. When he talks about like his emotions, how he feels, how his perspective is perceived from each battle that's like occurring, that's happening, like it's completely different compared to your normal shonen protagonist. And then how he has transformed and became this cynical person, aka Archer, right? Like,
well, I think we are allowed to talk about that now at this point. We gave spoiler warnings at like the 10-minute mark, so it's fair game now.
Alright, so yeah, like, I guess that's also one of my most favorite scenes as well. Like, when I was reading Unlimited Blade Works, I thought I already seen everything that Fate Stay Night has to offer. Like, after reading the Fate route, I was like, okay, there's nothing that can surprise me anymore. I was wrong. Man, when I read Unlimited Blade Works, I realized that Archer is actually Shiro from the future. I'm like, whoa, no way, like... But you can even see the hints, like his very first hint of being Archer was in Fate Route when he projected Caliburn, right? And it was a complete mystery. You're like, how can he use that magic?
Was it because he said trace on as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that was supposed to be something that only Shiro knew. I do remember.
Right,
but specifically talking about Shiro though, like on your point of him being different from other protagonists, I always thought, like, at least when I first started getting into Fate, that he was like, like that generic guy who he does everything nice because that's how he's written, right? And then it turns out that it's actually because he literally has no way of feeling fulfilled unless he helps other people. So like he's like actually defective. Like that surprised me. Exactly. But back to your point.
I don't think I have anything else to say.
Oh, just like he's your favorite because of how complex and in depth he is.
Yeah, complex, in depth. What is it like? A completely. Well,
it subverts your expectations, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That's the word I'm looking for.
I mean, I guess you and I are similar then, because my favorite character, if it wasn't obvious to my viewers, it's Archer himself.
I thought you also liked Kotomine as well.
I like Kotomine in the sense that I enjoy seeing him on screen. I wouldn't say he's my favorite character.
Are you sure? You really don't like him?
Okay, I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm saying that I'm saying that he's not my favorite. Like my favorite, like by far, absolutely, Heroic Spirit Emiya.
Okay.
And
but why not Shiro himself, right? Like his past self.
Okay. I mean, it's not that I dislike Shiro too. It's that I relate to Archer a lot more. You know, like when you discover Archer's like how hard he pursued his beliefs, how much he sacrificed to get to where he was, and how like even at the very end he was still betrayed by what he believed in, no matter how many sacrifices he made. Like, you know, for me, that was probably like the most relatable thing. Like out of all the servants, he felt the most relatable to me because I know what that's like to like put in so much effort for something just to have it turn out to be like false or, you know, have things fall apart, right?
I think that is most of us. Like when it comes to school, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to relationship, when you put in a lot of effort into something, a lot of time, a lot of care, right, and devotion, but at the end of the day, like you are rewarded with nothing. Let's say with school, right? Like you put 4 years, 8 years for a degree or diploma, whatever you're studying for, right? And most of the time, you don't get anything. Well, that only depends on the place that you're living in.
It depends
the economy,
on the circumstances,
the economy's bad, or you're in a desperate place where you need money right away, so you don't have the time to like sit down and look for jobs. So you're just working your days off just by doing cashier or something, right?
Yet those hands will never hold anything. Right? And you know, when you mention that point of like how that's how real life is, that's also the reason why I like the conflict between Shiro and Archer so much. Like, we literally have a guy who's idealistic, you know, like young Shiro, like he believes in being a hero of justice, in pursuing the happiness that you can obtain from helping other people. Whereas Archer, being the cynical guy who's already gone down that path, like he hates that, right? He despises that because
he has already experienced what like true hell is, or what reality is, I guess.
Exactly. And then like when they actually come to blows in Unlimited Blade Works, I just thought like, you know, this is the struggle that people have, right? Trying to reconcile their youthful optimism and idealism against the harsh reality of the world itself, right? Which is why, like, for me, that fight in particular, like, I have rewatched that scene from the visual novel at least 20 times, and I have rewatched the video of that, like the one done by Dean, even a few times too, because...
What about the ufotable version?
I only watched the very last part, because the ufotable version of that fight is way too long.
It was too long for you?
Dude, there's a guy on YouTube who actually has a full clip of the fight, and I think the runtime is like something like 27 minutes. Like it's really long.
Basically the whole episode.
I mean, obviously there's cuts in between, but like, and the thing is that they couldn't do it the same way that they did in the visual novel, because they had the characters actually like narrate the thoughts, right? Where you didn't have to do that in the visual novel, right?
Yeah.
Like, most of the dialogue that was in the ufotable animation was actually just thoughts that were put into words, which was unnecessary in my opinion. But, But still, like, the reason why I loved that fight so much was because it was that ideological conflict, the realist versus the idealist, and, you know, pushing yourself past your limits to try and prove what you believe in, right? Now, I mean, of course, I feel like Archer's result is far more realistic, because a lot of the time people chase their dreams and don't end up grasping them, right? But like the reason why Shiro wins that fight, like at least in my opinion, from like a narrative standpoint, is that it's showing that believing in your dreams isn't a wrong thing to do, right? There's no way it's a mistake kind of thing. Like we want to believe in that. We want to believe that we can acquire our dreams, that we can be strong enough to do that, which is why I think a lot of people, you know, might have resonated with that. And I know that in real life, it's very unlikely you get what you want, but still, people can dream, right? And that's kind of what it was to me.
Exactly.
I don't know, any moment like that stand out to you?
Well, yeah, like, I think it's because of that sort of moment is the reason why I like Shiro a lot more when he was like still at his youthful days compared to his older self, like his Archer Amiya spirit version, right? It's because like Amiya Shiro, I don't know, like there's a lot of emotions like just thinking about him, but I don't know how to like put it in words.
Well, try your best, because there's a lot to talk about specifically regarding Shiro. Are you talking about like a trait of his, personality characteristic?
Well, personality-wise, he's kind of bland, right? He's like your generic. He's kind of your generic character.
Dense protagonist kind. Yep.
In a way, I won't say he's kind of dense, because like the 3 routes he did manage to like get with the girls. So
true.
Unlike most shonen characters, where they would just be single, right?
Okay. Well, what about it then?
Let's see. Like, it's not about his personality that I liked. Or I mean, like it's okay, but I like reading his thoughts. His thoughts are very like what is it? Like interesting. It's abnormal.
Like which kinds?
Which kinds? In how he like tries to like throw his own life away just for others, even though he doesn't know them that much, right?
Whoa.
And like at first when you read that, or in my perspective when I read that, like I didn't see that as a problem, because I'm too used to watching like shonen anime characters just throwing their life away for others. But as soon as Rin like slapped him and told him like that is not normal, that you should like watch your own life and be like, you should see how your life is more precious than others, or something like that. Like
reminds
you should care about yourself a lot more, right? I was like, oh shit,
yeah,
you're right. Like he could actually die.
Because that was right after what happened with Ilya, right? Where like the guy literally risked getting killed by Gilgamesh for basically no reason. You did tell me, this was a conversation you and I had a while back, that he treated Saber kind of like too protectively. What did you think about that then?
Okay, that part was strange to me, because after reading the Fate route and the Unlimited Blade Works route, it feels like I'm reading 2 different Shiros. Like Unlimited Blade Works, Shiro is this guy who wants to like go for his dreams, save everybody, and he's more proactive. Like he's going out, he's using his projection a lot more, and he's like in the front line fighting. While as in Fate route, he's mostly just like, oh Saber, stay at home, let's not fight, don't do anything rash, let's not do anything crazy, okay?
You're a girl, I don't want to see you get hurt.
Yeah. Just stay around, I'll make you some food, and we're good. We're gonna live our life as peaceful as possible. So like when I compare those 2 routes, those 2 Shiros, I was like, who is this guy?
I think
are you the same dude that I read?
I mean, I think we have to accept Unlimited Blade Works route Shiro as canon, because otherwise a lot of things don't make sense.
It really didn't make any sense at all. Like in Fate route, Shiro seems like this coward that doesn't want to do anything. He keeps saying that he wants to achieve his dream, yet he doesn't do anything to like actually meet that expectations. While as Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel, especially Heaven's Feel, he was reckless as all hell. He's like, all right Saber, let's go, and then he's just out there constantly fighting, but every time he comes back he's like injured, decimated, and that's why Sakura's like, oh no, I need to do something, right?
Yeah, like it is actually such a difference to see how he is in all the particular routes.
I mean, it makes no sense to me. Like why is Shiro and Fate Route just completely different? Is it because he had feelings for Saber? But then again, he also had feelings for Saber in Unlimited Blade Works too, right?
He has feelings for sabers in all routes, as far as I know. Just that Unlimited Blade Works is the sorry, not Unlimited Blade Works. Heaven's Feel is the only one where he discards them.
Yeah, like Heaven's Feel is the only one where he's like, you're pretty, but I got someone else on my mind.
Well, like, you remember the part where, like, in the visual novel, when he goes into the cave, like, he actually, like, he makes a conscious choice to choose Sakura over Saber, kind of thing?
In Heaven's Feel?
Yeah. In the cave. Like, when they were fighting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he always had feelings for her, but just, like, Sakura was more important, so he just moved past that. So I guess that's the great thing about Shiro, is that, I mean, no matter which girl he ends up getting with, he always protects them with his life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, for me, the Miyu-verse Shiro is absolutely my favorite.
Oh, he is my most favorite version of them all. He is basically Shiro with Archer's power, but with that same Amiya Shiro mentality.
Hey, you said... hold on. You said you never watch anything but Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, right? Did you watch Prisma Ilya, or did you only read it?
I only read it. I only read the Jirai version.
Okay, then for the viewers very quickly, Prisma Ilya, another spin-off of Fate in which one of the characters from Fate Stay Night is a magical girl, and her older brother, adopted brother, is Amiya Shiro. Ding. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, although I like Archer, you know, same guy, same Amiya Shiro, but not really. And the reason why is because, like, Amiya, as an archer, he is a lot more calculated, a lot more cynical, and very careful, right? But when you look at Miyu version of Amiya Shiro, he's basically Amiya with archer powers, almost like Heaven's Feel, except he won't, like, have any sort of consequences for using his powers.
Yeah.
And I just like seeing him, like, using all of Archer's powers as reckless as possible.
Well, it was to protect
a very main character. It was a very main character thing to do, I feel.
Do you think Kiritsugu would have been proud of him, though? Because Kiritsugu really wanted to be a hero of justice, right? But I mean, in that universe, though, Shiro completely abandons everything just to save his little sister. Like, it's basically like Heaven's Feel route, except for Miyu, right? So it always comes back down to, like, can he ever actually put aside the hero of justice thing? And I mean, obviously he could, right? Because there's 2 instances where he does, but it never seems to be like an easy thing. I mean, him overcoming that curse, well, I'm gonna call it a curse because it depends on whether, like, which route he's in, whether that's a curse or a blessing, but seeing him overcoming that curse and actually choosing to use his power for the sake of one person is also interesting. That being said, though, you know, like, since we're on the topic, do you have any other favorite moments in the Fate stuff that you've seen so far?
I would say one of them is the revelation of Sakura being the last master, then Mato Shinji. Like, it shows some hints on Fate and Unlimited Blade Works route, where Mato Shinji is not a real master because he keeps using the books.
Wait, did he actually use the books in the other ones?
Yeah, he used books.
It's been so long, I actually don't remember.
He never had a command spell on his body.
Oh, it's been a long time, so, okay.
Yeah. So, when you see those kind of hints, and the fact that Ryder was, like, mega weak in the first 2 routes.
Well, like, actually she wasn't, right? She was pretty strong against Saber in Fate, at least. But either way, yeah, continue.
I wouldn't say she was that strong. Like, she may have shown, like, some impressive feats. Like, she showed her, like, what is it, her...
Belaphon?
Yeah, Belaphon, her Pegasus or whatever, right? But it got overpowered by Excalibur, so it was kind of whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
And she died super early from that sensei. Forgot his name.
Kuzuki.
Yeah.
guy who literally kills everyone with a punch.
got her neck snap. Oh my god, that's another one of my favorite moments too. Like the revelation of the teacher being another master.
Yeah.
Because you never knew who Castor's master was in Fate Route, right? He just kind of died off screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of nowhere.
I mean, that also means that the visual novel's like probably the best experience then, because it lets you tie all these mysteries together.
Yeah, like what I like about Fate Stay Night more than Fate Zero is the mystery. Like every time you play a route and you finished it, you thought, oh, that was pretty enjoyable. But there's a lot of unanswered questions that I would like to know, so you just kept on reading. And the more you read, the more fascinated you are.
What was it about the Sakura scene that you liked in particular?
Just how dark it is. Like, personally, I like to watch shows like Mirai Nikki and Higurashi.
You're one of those people.
Yeah. So when I see like the dark stuff that is going on with Sakura, I don't know. Like it's just a biased thing. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. I also imagined you really enjoyed watching her kill Shinji then. Jesus.
Oh yeah, that was another one of my favorites. I really want him to die for the longest time.
I mean, I guess it is satisfying to see corruption, because that's, for lack of a better word, that's basically what it was, right? Just full-on corruption. Seeing her go from like innocent schoolgirl who's in love with the main character to like literal embodiment of death.
Like what I like about those sort of things is that I like to watch corrupted entities or beings being purified again by some sort of like other party, which would be Shiro in Sakura's case, right?
Yeah, I guess he tried really hard for that.
And like, if you were to look at Mirai Nikki and Higurashi, when you first started the series, is like all bloody, all messed up, everything's going downhill. But like, once you like watch near the end, near the last two episodes or to the final episode, it gets pretty bright again. Everything is about to be okay.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, not exactly my kind of taste, but I will admit that it was okay to go through once.
It was a complete 180 when I read Heaven's Feel, because like Fate and Unlimited Blade Works, the Holy Grail was kind of normal, right? Like everything was consistent. It was just a lot of plot twists, but that's it. Yeah. But then once you reach Heaven's Feel, like the Holy Grail War is now completely different. Like
it's not even really like the Holy Grail War, right?
Now it's written as a horror story. I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
It goes to show you how talented Nasu is at writing, right? Admittedly, though, when it comes to my favorite moments, it wasn't really the dark stuff that got to me, so...
Yeah, yours is more so about the heroic side or the realist side of the story, right?
Or like, well, also like the, I guess, the somber side. I have two that come to mind right away. The first one is the Banquet of Heroes from Fate Zero. You remember that scene?
Which one again?
The Banquet of Heroes, like the one where like all the kings get together and have a drink.
Oh, that one, yes.
Yeah, that one was like one of my favorites because it gave you an insight into like the different ways kings can rule, right? Because Gilgamesh, being like the arrogant guy he is, like you could never expect this guy to be like an ideal kind of king, right? But of course, Fate Grand Order proves that wrong, but that's besides the point. And then you have Saber talking about how like she wanted to undo her kingship, how like she wanted her people to be protected and safe, but then Iskander just turns on her and says like that's not a way a king should be. It's like, if you only save people but never lead them, then you'll just lead your country to ruin and all that stuff. And then you see how Saber regrets like everything. And
yeah, it was a battle of perspective, but unfortunately Saber was the immature one. Like she did not view her country as a king but as a hero instead, right?
She tried to be a perfect ideal king, and that in itself led to problems. Apparently, I don't understand how that would work in practice, but in the Fate universe, like that, the reason why people started turning against her was because they believed that the king was not someone that they could understand, right?
Well, I think the main reason why Saber was having a hard time was because she was trying to do everything herself rather than like actually telling people what to do on how to help her, right?
Basically, I remember in that particular scene, she said to Alexander the Great that the king must always be alone, right? And then Iskander just brings out Ione and Teteroi, which is like all his soldiers, and how they were all still loyal to him and how they shared his visions and dreams. Like, I'm pretty sure like that's what really sealed the deal.
They were all willing to die with him, right?
There was a very famous speech by Alexander the Great in real life that talked about that too, because he wanted to go all the way to the ocean, right? They were in like, I think they were in like one of the Egyptian cities where like his soldiers were actually ready to give up, right? And then he gave them this really inspiring speech, and I don't remember much from it, but one of the lines I remember from it is that you may turn and leave, but those who continue forward with me, I swear to you, I will make you the envy of all of those who left. You know, that kind of thing. It really was that he led in such a way that he might have been king, but he still shared his vision with people, right? So I don't know if Saber ever. I don't think she did actually, because in Fate Grand Order, there's a part where she talks to one of the Knights of the Round Table and it, like confesses that she thinks about things in a way that she doesn't feel like it's okay to share with the people around her, right? There's a part where she was talking about how an enemy might not necessarily be evil, right? So she was talking about how like barbarians were invading Britain, right? I think they were called Saxons or something like that.
Okay.
And she said basically like this was something that she could not say to anyone but Sir Bedivere, who was one of her knights. He says, they might be our enemy, but they're not evil. Yes, they invade our lands and attack us, but what they want for the people to prosper is inherently good, right? Kind of thing. So like, it did seem that Saber had a lot on her mind that she couldn't share with the people close to her because she felt like it was inappropriate too. That being said, though, like she also said to Bedivere in that same conversation that Camelot was not founded on strength but on the wishes of people, right? So it was really clear what she wanted to do with the kingdom, but I guess the execution didn't exactly go through the way she wanted it to.
I mean, that's why in the Fate route in Fate Stay Night, Amy Ashiro and Saber are always arguing with each other, right? Because of their conflicting perspective of the world.
Was Saber opposed to Shiro's ideology? Like, I actually don't remember this very well. I know they didn't agree on Saber's wish, but like, did Saber ever like rebuke Shiro and telling him that like it's not okay to sacrifice yourself for other people? I don't remember if that happened.
No, it was actually Shiro that told Saber to not sacrifice herself for others.
Okay, yeah, like, it was one or the other, and I just remember like that'd be like the most hypocritical thing ever. It was one of them was doing that to the other.
That's why I'm laughing, because like that's exactly what Shiro did in Only Blade Works. Like, he's willing to sacrifice himself for others, and yet in the Fate route, like he is saying what he is against. Like what. I'm speechless.
You know, that reminds me that I think Lancelot specifically said that he went mad because King Arthur never punished him for his crimes, right?
Yeah. So
like that, I mean, that just goes to show that like a lot of the problems that Saber created was because people felt like they couldn't connect with her, or she wasn't human enough, right? More like just an ideal king than a person, right? Whereas
like her thought process is almost similar to Shiro's then, right?
Yeah. Whereas
in that sort of mindset,
Iskander, like the presence that Alexander the Great brought was like completely different. Like he just felt like one of the, I don't know, for lack of a better word, one of the homies, right? Like someone that you looked up to and could hang around with. Like he seemed like all cheerful and stuff, but he was also very competent as a leader, right? Wise
that's why Waver looks up to him a lot,
right? And yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you how interesting they made these characters. I know they're based off of like historical figures and whatnot, and I'm pretty sure not completely accurately either, because my understanding is that Alexander the Great was not such a nice person in real life, but still.
Yeah, and apparently he's like a lot shorter than the anime version of
He's not like a giant.
Yeah.
Dude, the guy's like twice the height of Waver, and Waver isn't even that short, I feel. I don't know.
I think he's just your like average Japanese student size.
I don't even know what the average height of Japan is either. So either way though, like servants are very different from how they are in history. Like Astolfo, my god, has to be the biggest difference. Loosely based is the only thing I can describe.
What is Astolfo like in real life?
I don't even know that many legends about Astolfo, but he certainly isn't more like a girl than a guy, based on what I can read up on Google, so... Yeah, I don't know. I can only assume loosely based. And okay, another thing that I take issue with Fate sometimes is that they gender bend characters for no reason whatsoever.
A lot. Like, Da Vinci.
Yeah, I mean... How did they even explain that one? They were like, oh yeah, the Mona Lisa is actually like a self-portrait. So Da Vinci can manifest in whatever gender he wants. I don't know. I forget the explanation for that. Okay, and then we have, like, King Arthur himself, where, like... Okay, I guess that one sort of had to be done, because she was one of the heroines in the story. But, like... We have a male King Arthur, too. So...
Then would it make more sense that, Mordred's dad is the male version of King Arthur?
Okay. There's a long, complicated explanation as to why Mordred even exists. So, I don't even know if in Arthurian legends, Mordred is actually Arthur's illegitimate child, but in the Fate universe, he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I might have told you this before, but apparently the way that worked was that Merlin gave Arthur, like, male parts so that he could actually conceive a child, and then Morgan Le Fay did some magic with that and created Mordred. It doesn't make sense to me. What I will say, though, is on the topic of Mordred, she's actually one of my favorite characters as well. For the exact same reason that Archer is one of my favorite characters. I really understand her hatred towards her father, kind of thing. The whole believing in something so much that when it betrays you, that, like, the only emotion you feel is just absolute hatred.
Mm-hmm.
But she matures. She changes a lot, and believe it or not, her death scene in Apocrypha is actually one of my favorites.
I never watched the anime, so I won't know.
Okay, I'll show you that scene after we're done with this episode. But basically what happens is so Apocrypha story is really complicated. So first it's one faction versus another, and then eventually it becomes some people from the red side defect to the black side, and then they all fight against the red side because the red side is the most dangerous group. And basically what happens is Mordred ends up working with the black faction and fighting against their former allies, right? Mm-hmm. And the fight actually results in her master being fatally injured, right? And she didn't want to abandon her master, so she just stayed with him until he expired, basically. And then they had a talk about, their lives, about everything that led them to the point they are, and how what they really wanted and what they thought they wanted weren't the same thing. Like, to explain Mordred's master, basically he's a necromancer who, he joined the Holy Grail War to try and find a way to resurrect his dead daughter, for lack of a better explanation. And Mordred is in the Holy Grail War because she wants to challenge the Sword of Selection. Like, you know how the legend of King Arthur goes that King Arthur became king because he pulled a sword out of a stone?
Oh, so what, like, she wants to go back in time and hold the sword for herself?
Exactly. She wants to prove that she can be king, kind of thing, right? So, okay. Mordred in the Fate franchise specifically, she was basically, like, raised by Morgan Le Fay to eventually overthrow Arthur, I think. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that Mordred always admired Arthur a lot, but then, like, Arthur would never acknowledge Mordred or, like, give her the right to be king, right? So that's why eventually she, like, came to really hate Arthur and everything. And she wanted to be king, so she wanted to go back and challenge that sword. But then, in her last moments in Apocrypha, she, like, finally understood the reason why. I think she actually got a vision from Merlin about the moments where King Arthur pulls the sword from the stone, and she realizes why Arthur decided to be king in the first place. And then she decides, I don't need that. Kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think what it was that she accepted the way her life turned out, and ultimately decided that it was okay to let go of that past.
Yeah, if she were to let it go, then wouldn't she be unable to be summoned as a servant again?
Well, no, you can always be summoned as a servant, I think, because as long as you're registered in the Throne of Heroes, you can.
Then,
But
then
she just
what
wouldn't
happened in the Fate route then with
Huh?
Saber? Then what happened at the Fate route then with Saber? Like ever since
Okay,
did-
that's the thing. That is the only route in which she is actually allowed to die, right? Because Saber was an exception. She became a servant before dying, which I don't even know how that's possible.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so like the Fate route was the only route in which she actually died. And then if she doesn't die, she becomes the Lion King in Camelot Singularity, but like that's a whole different conversation for us to have, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I think I think a servant can choose to respond to summons, right? Like for example, when at least in Prisma Ilia, where like Shiro in the Miyu-verse tried to call out for a servant to lend their power, the only person who answered that summon was his future self, right? So,
I mean, that was the only catalyst, right?
well, it wasn't that it was the only catalyst. It was that there was no one who would have lent his power for that cause. As far
Was
as I
that the main
remember.
reason?
That was
I
the
thought
reason.
it was because I thought the reason was because he had an archer card, and coincidentally, his future self is an archer.
In the manga,
And
it's explicitly said that Archer was the only servant that responded to his summon.
okay.
So I mean, I'll try to find that page for you later because it's actually one of the older chapters of Iliad Dre. But either way, I'm fairly certain that Mordred, like obviously like at least in the Fate Grand Order segment, as far as I can tell, she's like kind of over the whole like thing. Like of course she still has animosity with Arthur and everything, and you know like tries to avoid her if possible. But like it seems like she's gotten to the point where she's accepted that you know it's better for her to be a knight than to try and be a king, even though she still believes that she has the potential to be king, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason why she wanted to pull the sword out in the first place is just so she could prove that she is better than her father, right?
Yeah,
Or AKA King Arthur.
exactly. So like once she let that go, like I mean, again, I think her hatred never really subsided because it's still kind of justified in a way, but at the same time, it's like she doesn't have that same desire anymore.
But if you don't have that same desire anymore, won't that mean like you do not wish for the Holy Grail?
Which is like what I suspect, and I don't know if this is true or not. I might just be completely talking out of left field here, but I think that if you do not have a desire for the Holy Grail, you won't answer a summon for a Holy Grail war. Like a bunch of servants, at least in the Fate Grand Order, because you can go to the Master's room and have conversations with servants, right? There's a bunch of them that don't even want the Grail, and they're still there, you know? So...
I mean, are they there because you summon them by other means?
Yeah, I mean, they are, but I'm just saying that, like, there are many servants that don't even have a desire for the Holy Grail, so... I mean, I guess Morge would just fall into that category as well.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I don't even, like, for some of the servants, I don't even understand what they would want the Holy Grail for. Like, Achilles, for example. Like, what is he gonna do? Like, undo his myth or something like that?
I don't know because I don't watch Apocrypha.
Do you at least know who Achilles is, though? Like, in real life?
No, I do not.
Okay,
No.
do you know what the Achilles tendon is, at least?
No.
Okay, it is this part on the back of your foot. So the legend of Achilles basically is that he was the son of a goddess and a human king, I think, right? It was one or the other, and his mother dipped him into the river Styx so that he would become immune to all forms of injury. But because she held him by the ankle and dipped him into the river, his heel was the only part where he could be injured from.
Oh.
Yeah, and then he ended up going on to become a very great Greek hero. He fought in the Trojan War.
Did he like injured his ankle somewhere and like?
No, that never happened because he was a really great soldier, right? But in the Trojan War, I think what ended up happening was that so a lot of things happened in the Trojan War, which I'm not completely familiar with because the Trojan War is a long history. But supposedly, Achilles somehow incurred the wrath of Apollo, who actually took possession of one of the Trojans, Paris, and shot Achilles through the ankle, and that's how he died. Yeah.
Did he die from immense pain? Like,
No,
how did he die from?
He was poisoned. I'm pretty sure. Like the arrow was poisoned. and that was the only part of his body that could be injured, right? So then, yeah.
And it was by accident?
It was not by accident. It was deliberate.
They knew? How?
Apollo knew, I think. Like, that's why he guided Paris' arrow to, like, Achilles' only weak point.
Okay.
But the thing is that, like, the Trojan War is strange, though, because the Greek gods were involved in it in many aspects. At least, like, the myth. So I don't know it very well. Specifically regarding Achilles, though, I know that he had a few regrets in his life, because there were many times where he did or did not do something that he ended up regretting. Like, for example, he got into a disagreement with one of the Greek leaders who was fighting the Trojans, and then he chose to not let his Myrmidons fight, and as a result, his cousin and close friend, like, I think his name was Patroclus, stole Achilles' armor to pretend to be Achilles, ran into battle against the Trojans, and was killed by Hector, who was one of the Trojan heroes. And then he killed Hector and desecrated Hector's body, which he also came to regret. And then he ended up killing. So she's also in the Servant and Fate Grand Order. I forgot to mention. He killed one of the Amazon leaders. I can't pronounce her name. Penthesilea. He realized that he'd actually like fallen in love with her, but then he killed her. But like by the time he realized that, so
it was already too late.
Yeah. He had a lot of regrets in his life, so maybe he would wish for one of those things to get fixed. But from his personality in the show, as far as I could tell, all he cared about was fighting battles. So,
well, who's to say, like, you know, maybe he actually does want to like wish for those mistakes to be undone. Maybe he just wants to like do all these battles to hide his pain. You won't know, right?
I have no way of knowing. He's like really bloodthirsty towards anyone who's not an ally, but whenever he sees someone that he recognizes or like someone he considers a friend or something, he hesitates to fight. So, I mean, there's probably more to him that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, same thing as an example for like Frankenstein's monster, like the girl that is wearing the wedding dress. I actually don't even know what her wish is, but I'm pretty sure if I looked more into it, I could probably find out. Probably has something to do with... If I had to take a wild guess, and I might be right with this, I think her wish was that she wanted there to be another being like her. Because she's not a real person, and she was always alone in the world.
Yeah, that'll make sense. She's basically like the alien of the entire Earth species.
Yeah, kind of like how true ancestors were. I wonder if there was any ever a point in time where like humans like harassed these people, like these mythical creatures and stuff, and so like they just ended up hating humanity.
Unfortunately, I don't think I know too much about my Tsukihime lore.
I mean, once the remake comes out and we play it, maybe we'll know, right?
Oh, can't wait.
I know this is a topic about Fate, but like it's hard to not talk about the extended Nasuverse because some of the elements get interlinked.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But yeah, so I mean, I think I've told you about my favorite scenes in Apocrypha. In Fate Extra, what was there? Yeah, I guess it would have to be the part where you fight against Buddha.
You can actually fight Buddha himself.
Yeah, okay, the story of that is actually extremely complex. So, there's a guy who was a doctor who tried to, save people because Earth had become, like, uninhabitable and bad stuff was happening. Eventually, he went to the Moon Cell. He summoned Tamamo no Mae as his servant, tried to fight the Holy Grail War. And then something happened to him. I forget what exactly happened to him, but he lost the ability to use the Moon Cell's power to make his wish come true. Mm-hmm. And I forget exactly what it was he wanted to do, but it was on like the same level of like turning humanity into like a species that like can't die or something like that. I don't remember the exact reasoning behind it, but eventually he was able to summon Buddha because Buddha like sympathized with his soul. He felt like a lot of compassion for the guy because I forget the exact reason why, but the guy really did want to save humanity, just that the way he was going to do it was kind of despicable. And then
is it his method almost similar to Julius from Fate Alia? Yeah,
kind of like that, where like it would be unpleasant kind of thing. It's like, sure, in a way you save humanity, but then like like bad things happen. I don't remember the exact details because it's been so long since I played Fate Extra. But basically, when you go to your player character and servant ends up winning the Holy Grail War, right? And when you go to actually use it, then you find him there waiting with Buddha, and then you have to fight them.
Is Buddha who I think it is? Like, he's all like golden, kind of fat.
Well, he's not fat. He's actually really let me see if I can find a picture for you. He's what you'd think he'd be, except he's not fat. He's actually like really fit somehow.
A fit Buddha with a
dude,
okay.
Dude, you wouldn't believe it. Like he sits on the lotus flower and everything, but then like he actually looks pretty nice, surprisingly.
Does he have multiple arms or just?
No, he's not like Shiva or anything, but like he's I'll send you his page on the Fate wiki, but yeah, you fight him. It just goes to show you that there's a lot of different things that can happen in the Fate franchise, right? Like gods and whatnot getting summoned. So yeah, you see that?
Oh yeah.
And like, you know, there's a lot of different gods that can be summoned too, like Ishtar, for example.
Yeah, obviously Ishtar.
Who we'll just call Rin because she's like what? I think she's like 60% Rin or like 60% Ishtar, one or the other. So, but still, I mean, yeah, Fate franchise is only getting bigger and bigger, and as you know, there's always more stuff coming out for them.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's gonna end anytime soon.
It better not. I paid a lot of money for Fate Grand Order.
Hey man, all that money was finally made them like finish Tsukihime remake, right?
The way I look at it is this: my money goes to funding animations and new projects, so I'm okay with that because otherwise we wouldn't get nice things.
Right. That's why we're getting like Fate Grand Order movies. Fate Heaven's Feel, like it's good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they're not selling many copies of the original Fate Stay Night nowadays. At least they're not getting much money off of it.
No,
So
I'm pretty sure people just download the game for free now. Like,
has there even ever been an official localization of Fate Stay Night? I need to ask this because I've never seen an official localization before.
not that I know of.
Okay, so maybe next on the list of things to do is either a remaster of Fate Stay Night or like an animation of the Fate route, which is the only route we have that is not animated by by Ufotable.
I heard rumors that Ufotable is doing a Fate route after they finish Heaven's Feel, but that I'm not too sure.
Fingers crossed that there'll be an announcement. I mean, Type Moon like completely smashes memes about how they don't do things all the time, so it's only a matter of time before something like that gets announced.
I mean, look at Carnival Phantasm, right?
I was never ever expecting that to come back. I thought that was one and done, man.
Yeah, I thought that was over, but
dude, I'm excited. I think 2021 is going to be a very good year for Fate. I've talked a bit about it on my other my podcast for Shimalaya before too. How like there's so many things that they can do with the future of Fate Grand Order. They can add new projects, expand on their old franchises, like remake some of the old games and bring it to a more global audience. Like, it's exciting to see where this series is going to go in the future. That being said, though, I think we are actually 13 minutes overtime today. So, any last remarks you want to make?
Nope.
Okay, so, in that case, that brings us to an end for today's episode of Jesters Hideout. So, I hope everyone enjoyed the new format where we only talked about basically one topic for the whole session. As usual, we'll be back next week with some other stuff. But until then, this is Akira.
This is Volt.
And we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.